Good afternoon, everyone, and maybe good morning for those who are in other continents. So today we have our guest speaker from GSPP, which is the international organization based in Thailand related to the forest and people. We will have Kun Warangkana Rattanarat, who is the director of GSPP Thailand. She will provide some of her experience working for a long time in GSPP and also the experience of the community-based climate change adaptation. I think it's time. So I would like to give the floor to Kun Warangkana. The floor is yours, Kun Warangkana, please.
สวัสดีค่ะ I checked that there are also some Thai and also for the many from the international friends. Firstly, maybe let me introduce myself again. You can call me in short Nok, NOK. So that is how you can easily remember, or you can call me by this nickname. And as Ajahn Sapit mentioned, that I've been working with GSPP for about 12 years. And my role is to do the management of country programs of GSPP. GSPP has 7 country programs, and one of the first and still is Thailand, and we've been here over 38 years. Maybe I will start the presentation so that you can see GSPP's works in the other country a little bit. I will do the sharing, if that's okay. Can you see the whole screen now? Okay, and today I will share you the my experience, and also some of the knowledge that I review about the community-based adaptations and resilience to climate change. I very much use the information from the literatures that we produce, and also from the other development agencies. For the let me try to find ways to change this again. Okay, so this is where GSPP works. As you see that I mentioned earlier that we have 7 country programs, and covering almost all Mekong countries, including also Nepal and Indonesia. And we mainly focus on the community forestry. And now we also try to cover the forest landscapes. And also it is the kind of like only organizations in the Asia Pacific that focus this kind of like areas of work. Okay, so then you already know about myself, but let me also ask about you. Can you also introduce yourself? I try to see that how many of you now here in the online. So let's try to use this Mentimeter. Let's see if it works. Okay.
Can you put the link in the chat, please?
Or just a look.
I can do it for you. The link is in the chat box.
Thank you very much, Professor.
Okay, I'm not so good in the Mentimeter, no? I hope that you can enter now into the Mentimeter. There are 3 questions. First, can you tell which country you're from? can you access to the Mentimeter? Or otherwise, let me do it in more interactive by just ask you to tell your name and your country is here. You know. Can I maybe just now open? I think we are just not that many of us. Can you just like tell where you from in the chat? There are 3 questions in the Mentimeter, but since only a few of us here already, can you just type where you are by country in the chat? Okay, thank you. Now we have one participant from Nigeria, from Myanmar. Okay, thank you. I don't know, there are others still typing. Okay, thank you. So we have from different region now, like from the African countries and also from Myanmar, from the neighboring countries and also from the UK. And your role, please, can you also share your role? What you do or what kind of organizations you work in? I'm already tells about names of organizations, but if any other more, can you just say that from which organization or from what kind of organizations you from? Yeah. Okay, there are also people from Thailand. So thank you very much. So this is just quickly just to have a background of yourself. Okay, and last question is that why you think that community forest, why the climate change adaptation or community-based adaptations is important for you? Why this topic is interest you or it is important to you? Okay. You can still keep typing and introduce yourself in the chat, but let's continue for the discussions, yeah, from the presentations. Let me share again. Okay, I think now you see the slide already, right? As the topic that we see from the agenda already, that today we will talk about the climate change adaptation from the community-based point of view, right? So my presentation or my discussion will have 3 parts. Starting with talking about climate change adaptation again. I think we still need to talk about this concept first before we go to the community-based adaptations, or sometimes we call it CBA, no? And also for our discussion, because there are many terms using around climate change adaptation, sometimes we also hear something like ecological-based adaptation or EBA. So want also to explore different terms regarding the climate change adaptation. So that is going to be the first part. And the second part of the discussions today is about and how we go to do the community-based adaptations, what kind of tools are available, and especially about the vulnerability assessment, which is going to be the main part of my presentation today. That how we're going to do or undertake the assessments, and from that how we can actually have the adaptation pathway. And then the last part is going to be about the case studies of the Trees for All, which is a project that we have done in the northern region of Thailand in order to achieve the resilience to the climate change. And we also can discuss about this concept and also to see that advantage and also the challenges of doing the community-based adaptations. So this is going to be the 3 parts, which we can have also a break in between of each part. And if you also have any questions or any interactions that you want to have, we can use the chat. I will try to keep a look on the chat from time to time, no? Or even you can also open the mic and speak if you like to. Oh, sorry. I have to screen and I have to switch it. Sorry. This is very new to me to do the Zoom presentations online. Do this all together. Okay. It's not synced. Okay, starting with the climate change adaptations. I think this is something that you already know, no? Why it has the terms or why we need to do the adaptations and why it is so urgent. And I think this information may be not new for you anymore, but just to introduce again that we are in the critical times because we over already the targets of the controlling or trying to keep the temperatures of our Earth below the threshold that is going to be very sensitive, yeah, for our survivals. But now it is already over 1.1 Celsius compared to the baseline in the 18,000. And we are heading to the 2.5. And also it's going to be the moment that we all no longer can survive. And that is already in a limited time available. And that is why we have to think about that, how we can actually have an actions to survive in that situations, and especially in developing countries, yeah. And the reasons why we are from the developing countries have to think more and take actions seriously about the adaptation is that because we can no longer live in the world that will keep everyone so I can say safe without any adaptations. Yeah. But then what is the ways that we can do the adaptations? And also what is actually the meaning of the adaptations, yeah. When we're talking about the adaptations, it refers to the adjustments in like so many dimensions from the ecological, social, and economic systems. And this is in order to respond to the current and future climate change impacts. And it also to help us to reduce vulnerabilities that we're going to face from the expected impact of climate change. So this is kind of like the simple definitions of the climate change adaptations. And it actually emphasizes on our capacity to reduce the vulnerabilities. So that is a very important keywords that we will talk a lot in today's discussions. And therefore, I like to emphasize the key words of the adaptations in this slides. That when we're talking again about climate change adaptation, we mean to our actions to adjust or do the adjustments to respond to current and future climate change impacts, and that can help reduce the vulnerabilities. And this is kind of like a very simple process of climate change adaptation that you may already seen before, no? But it starts normally with the doing the assessment and trying to identify risk, yeah, in order to plan the adaptations and also implement the adaptation measures. And finally, we still have to monitor and evaluate the adaptations. So it's kind of like a very simple, normal development process. However, in each one or in each step require a lot of details and in fact on the ground, and especially when we deal with the communities, this flow chart, it may not simply deliver and it kind of like a linear process. Sometimes it go back and forth and also require reflections in between. What are example of climate change adaptations that you may think about? If that the meaning of climate change adaptations is about adjustment, is about to respond to the current and future climate impacts, and to help the reduce vulnerabilities. Can you just say you can speak from the mic? Can you just like give me one or two examples of climate change adaptations that you can think now? Anyone, you can just speak from the mic and open it now. Anyone want to try? Okay, I see some of the things in the chat. But if now you can open the mic and share with us that what are example of climate change adaptation that you already doing or you heard it before? Yeah.
Good morning, good afternoon. I think one of the things that we are also doing and started to do for climate adaptation is number one, make people aware of the why the land is degrading. So it's land degradation that we experience, and to adapt that, then we look into restoration processes, such as we bring plants in the degrading area, but before that we do a lot of the community intervention, talking, making them aware, and then we bring the seedlings, and we in that way we start planting in a phase by phase every 6 months, and then we go and monitor the place, and then we again plant, and then we monitor. That's what we're trying to do. So I think that's what I can think of adaptation, an example of adaptation. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is a great example from also the climate change, like from the community-based point of view as well. But if I may use example of a very typical climate change adaptations in many sectors, so I can think about example in agricultural adjustments. So as you said, that maybe we can utilize the drought-resistant crop varieties or modify planting schedules. Or try to use water in a sufficient way. Yeah, so that is one kind of like adjustment in terms of like agricultural sector. Or from the infrastructure point of view, we can also think about construction of seawalls, right? Or try to do the we try to do the elevating of roads or homes to be like safe and far from the water level. Or from the nature-based solutions, we can also think about the restore mangroves and wetlands to buffer against the storm surge. Or we can do the urban resilience, try to installing the green roofs to reduce heat. or we also can do emergencies and disaster management, like early warning system, or try to have like a disaster response plan. So that is kind of like a very general climate change adaptations that already been implemented or we heard about. But then questions and discussion that I like to bring here also is that, but how about that, sorry, how about the climate change adaptations that realize with our communities? Do you think that can we have adaptations that not really involve or based on the communities, and how it look like for climate change adaptation that is not based on communities? Any examples or any experience that you come across such kind of like situation before? Anyone want to share your opinions about when we do climate change adaptation without the community-based approach, or maybe not really consider that it has to be based on the communities, how it looks like? I cannot see that how many people are there. About 14 of us. Yeah. Okay, maybe I share to keep the discussion going. Let's maybe see example from the case that I reviewed, and this is a real case from Thailand. I don't know if you ever seen this picture before, if people from Thailand. So so these are the pictures of the before it used to be the peatland in the north of Thailand in Chiang Rai province. That is very kind of like it kind of a wetland that helped to keep the water that overflow from the main water from the main river. Sorry, and this is kind of like a good nature-based solutions that help to prevent the floods that overflow into the urban area. But now it has been changed and constructed as the reservoir using some concrete. And as you can see that the wetland or the water plants has gone and just been only like dumped by the soil concrete. And this kind of like climate change adaptations measures, sure, no, but it may not actually in the considerations with the communities opinion or the experience that in the past how this has been managed by the community before. And on the other pictures, I think this is also a very typical seawall measures. And this is Thailand, that they just put concrete to prevent erosion of the sand, and they just like build this kind of like a wall to make sure that the soil and the sand here will be kept. This is actually, on the other hand, damage the livelihood of people who actually been using this sand or this type of beach for the sailing of stuff, or even like just for relaxing. A lot of local people using this area just for relaxing, but now it became so dangerous and not so kind of relaxing beach anymore. So that is how the climate change adaptation actually can organize or construct without really being in the consultation with the communities or in the respect of the knowledge of the communities. But what is the problems if the climate change adaptation measures that are not based on the communities? Any other discussion you want to have here? Or any similar example, any similar experience you have from the other countries? Okay. Feel free to just open your mind, because I cannot actually see and monitor the chat. But I also just like to, before we talking about community-based adaptation, this is a very important point that I just want to bring, that why we need to emphasize, and this is the reasons that the community-based adaptations is created, or it has been discussed when we're talking about the climate change adaptation. Okay, maybe we go to the next one.
Okay, I have something to say.
Yeah, you want to share anything?
Yes, yeah, I have something to say from my own end. Climate change adaptation that is without the community. We have, like, here in Nigeria, we have lots of degraded lands, especially in the northern region, where they are mostly desert regions, where there are no trees, there are no plantations, the place is just bare. And so all these places needs one. Because why I said so is these regions, there are not no human activities is going on there in these regions, where it's just like a Sahara desert, where there are no trees, it's dry lands, mostly dust. So I think one of the climate change adaptation that one we should adopt is planting of trees, like incorporating trees into these regions. Yes, so such kind of regions will not be characterized as a desert region. Yeah, so that's what I want to share.
Okay, thank you. That is also very interesting, that it's just like the idea that seem welcome in many places, not always meaning suitable, right, for some particular context. So that is how, is that correct? Is that the way that I can summarize it, right? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so then let's maybe move to the next point. So as we discussed, when we're talking about climate change adaptation without the direct community involved, so normally we see something like, as you said, it often top down, or maybe it engineer infrastructure projects, that maybe you can see a large scale infrastructure developments. And also there are many ways that the government set up the budget without really engaging the local residents in the planning. And it maybe sometimes have the over the price or the high values of the projects, and not really considering at all the residential needs. And also you can see something like the large scale agricultural changes, like introducing of new crop variety, or you can see that it like focus more on the bigger farm or large farm adaptation rather than involving the smallholders. Or you can see the urban planning regulations that maybe the agency just impose the land use restrictions, like they decide the flood prone zones. For example, in Thailand also we have like the area that has been considered as the flood prone, and they've been kept in the water over 4 months, and they have no other preventions and considerations. And also you can maybe see a lot of automated monitoring system, like they use a lot of technologies to do the warning system or do the monitoring of the environmental change, but without really having the local training or using the community engagement. So that also can be climate change adaptations, but that is where the point of the community empowerment is lacking, or the community participation is lacking. Yeah. And I just want to conclude here that therefore, when we're talking about the climate change adaptation, there is no kind of like one size fit all solutions, and the adaptation, it needs to actually based on the knowledge, and it has to be like science-based knowledge, plus with the appropriate and traditional knowledge. and especially the knowledge of indigenous people or the local knowledge system, with the view into like the adaptations that can have integrations of like socio-economic, environmental policy and actions. Yeah, and again, just to recap, and what is the climate change, community-based adaptations. When we're talking about the community-based adaptations, therefore, we try to put people into the center. And this is mean like by facilitating a learning process that increase resilience and that like future capacity development. And it's not just about respond to the climate events, which is include personal development and organizational development. And this has the aim to have a positive visions, and instead of like try to preserve the status quo, of the situation, and aim that this is to engage vulnerable communities and to support their development path. So that is how many organizations promote the community-based adaptation, and this is the rationale of having this approach in the climate change adaptation discussion. And again, just more kind of like a concepts of the community-based adaptation. This is again, it mentioned that it is a community-led process, and it has to based on the community priorities, need, knowledge, and capacities. And also it required to have the participatory assessment of risk, to understand the risks that may come from the climate change, and also it have the overall aims to empower the communities to prepare for and respond to the climatic stress, and by facilitating the adaptation that is inclusive. So this is how the CBA is developed and emphasized, that it beyond just adaptation, but also it's about empowerment of the communities. Just to sum up and compare, when we're talking about the climate change adaptations, it means that it's about the ability to adjust, or the action of adjustments to respond to the climate, to respond to the current and future climate change impacts. And this will lead to reductions of the vulnerabilities. But when we use the community-based adaptations, we do this process by putting people in the center, right? And then it is the community-led process. And also it requires participatory assessment, and also this process will include personal development and organizational development. And then it's going to be like a process of change from the current status quo to the positive versions or visions. And especially we have to engage the vulnerable communities and empower those communities to prepare and respond for the climate stress. So that is how we can actually conclude or understand these two important process. And again, and if we see the needs of the who are the one that maybe in the needs the most when we're talking about the climate change impact, and this is maybe where the community-based adaptation is even more needed when we consider that the most vulnerable people are often the poor, and often are the marginalized people that living in the high-risk environments, and especially in the developing countries. And this where we want to use the community-based adaptations to not only address the issues of the adaptations or the climate impact, but it's also about how we can empower the most vulnerable people to be able to change their status quo, and make them to be empowered to actually further develop. And normally when we're talking about the adaptation capacities, these vulnerable people, they are often in the situation that they have low capacity to adapt and cope with the climate viability anyway. So that's why in this particular area, and like we from developing countries, so community-based adaptation therefore even more important in our region. And especially in the rural area, no? So I think we've been working a lot in the rural area, and there are two reasons. That's why when we're talking about community-based adaptations, it applies a lot in the community or in the rural context. Because firstly, they tend to be more heavily depend on the natural resources for their livelihoods. And because of those natural resources are normally also vulnerable for the climate change, yeah? And they are like be the one that located in the area or in the situations that vulnerable to the climatic and other natural disasters. And that's why when we're talking about community-based adaptations, often we focus on the rural communities, and these are the area that require our interventions and support. So at now, I don't know if any discussion you want to have or any clarifications you want to have, just to check if anything that missing or you feel this is too fast for you. Okay, now we have about 17 people, no? So everything is okay, no?
Can I ask a question and just comment on the slide where you put the infrastructure
Yeah.
adaptation, where you need governments or authorities need to have people at the center of anything for climate. This is a big problem, especially in developing world, where there's some kind of bilateral or multilateral kind of development programs, where one example is if you building roads in rural areas. And I came across an example just last summer where a road through the Chinese is building quite a lot in Africa. And they have this road building initiative. And in this region, the roads built in that area did not take into account the needs of the pastoralists, the rural pastoralists, where animals live, and it as part of the household. And one of the community members was saying that the road is all well and good, and we can see the road construction, but the problem we have at the moment is that they made the road so high, because normally the land is flat. They made the road so high that the animals go up to the road, and when they're coming down again or want to cross or coming down, there's a lot of animal breaking and their limbs and all that. And also a lot of animal death on the road. There are no signs, there are nothing. So, this kind of development, I sometimes wonder, okay, it's part of the infrastructure adaptation. So for the area, the way they made the road is to not impact on the actual sand on the sides and all that, but that itself needs some kind of education to go around with it. So I don't know what benefit would this kind of infrastructure development would have for the community. So I just wanted to comment on that, and if you can elaborate on how development, when you're developing for the sake of development, may not go along with the needs of communities that are being affected by climate change.
Yeah, that is an excellent point, and also very good examples. And it's quite ironic that sometimes the climate change adaptation measure itself is kind of like a measure or a factor that creating more vulnerabilities of the communities or the poor people. Generally like more like the poor are the one that easily been impacted by such measure, and are the one that least vocal in voicing out about what measures that may be suitable and in needs of them, right? And I think I recall also back to when we're talking about just developments. There are also many before we come up with like the climate change discussion, right? We been working in the developments, and in the past there are also example of developments projects without community participation or based on the communities. Some development projects also can harm the local livelihoods, or maybe harms the securities of the people as well. So I think this is maybe more or less the same with the context of the climate change adaptation that we are now talking today. So any measures that just like created maybe from the top down that we talked earlier, or maybe without the proper process by involving the community people into the discussion and being in this process, that can easily result to the negative consequence, right? Or it return to be something that against to the original objective of the project from the beginning. So I think this is very good point. I don't know if any others want to share a similar example, or from your questions that how we can prevent that kind of like unintended or kind of like the consequences that actually should not lead to why we actually want to improve our adaptations, but on the other hand, it became actually a more threat or a more kind of like a pressing pressure to the local people. Yeah. I am sorry that I may not be able to pick up things easily due to the limitation of my skills on the technology on Zoom. But let me know, no, if you want to chat or if you want to actually speak. So feel free. So otherwise, let's continue just to make sure that we can have more time at the end also for the discussions. Again, now try to make sure that we get the concept of the community-based adaptations together by just summarize that when we're talking about the community-based adaptations, so we look at the needs and priorities of the communities. However, we also have to factor the potential impacts of climate change on livelihood and their vulnerabilities, so that it can be like a climate adaptation measures. And this requires scientific informations, for example, by using the long-term predictions from the climate change models or seasonal forecasts, or from the meteorological informations on the local levels, plus using the knowledge from the local and perception about the climatic trends that experienced by the communities. So that is kind of like we have to combine not only the scientific from or from the engineer point of view, but also by using the knowledge of the local, so that local needs and the vulnerabilities of the local people can be addressed, and we can help to adjust to the change. I also just want to share the framework from the CARE International that you may already seen earlier. This is how you can see the components of the successful adaptations, and by having a community-based adaptations, or the community at the heart or at the center of the process. And this is kind of like the components that we should consider and to prevent us to actually having a climate change adaptation measures that, on the other hand, it harms the local people. Meaning, firstly, it requires us to work try to have like a promotion of climate resilient livelihood strategy in this process. So we should not only respond to the immediate problem or the disaster, but it actually aims to promote a climate resilient livelihood strategy. For example, doing the diversification of land use and also help them to have diversification of incomes. But on the other hand, it also need to respond to the risk or the disaster risk that to reduce the impacts of the disaster and also the household vulnerabilities. And on the third element, it also requires the capacity development from the organizational point of view, but also from the individual point of view as well. Like we need to think about the adaptations capacity of the local communities and also at the institutions level. And this is meaning like we have to have intervention for the advocacy and mobilizations for social change that can help us to address the underlying causes of the vulnerabilities. For example, it has to also address the issues of the poor governance or the gender-based inequality. And also at the end, if we can make sure that it influences for the policy and enabling environments, so that is how we can sustain the process and the resilience capacity of the communities can be continued. So this is just for your reference. If you like to explore more, so you can go and find this framework from the CARE International, and you can go through furthermore. But in this presentation, we may not be able to go one by one for all 4 components. Before we go to the how we actually going to start the community-based adaptations actions, one issue that I also just want to bring for the discussions today, because as I mentioned in the beginning, that sometimes we also hear or have heard about so many terms that sometimes also confuse that, oh, what again, this one, and how about community-based adaptation? Is this a better versions than this one that focus on the ecosystem-based adaptations, or vice versa? Sometimes we also think that, oh, now there is already a new framework, so we should actually adopt this one, and then maybe that earlier approach is not any longer relevant. So just want to explore with you that how you think about this a new framework. When we're talking about the community-based adaptation, there are often have like a comparison with the ecosystem-based adaptation, or sometimes we call it EBA, no? So when we're talking about EBA, we focusing on using the ecosystem as the tools or as measures, yeah, for increasing our adaptation capacities. And in this slide, you can see that it show that EBA involve conservations and sustainable management and restorations of ecosystem, because they are cost-effective solutions that can help people adapt to the impact of climate change. And for EBA, they aim to enhance or harness the biodiversity and ecosystem services to increase resilience and reduce the vulnerabilities of human communities. So it's just like a different focus, but we somehow also see kind of like the similar synergies also about involvement of the local people. But for EBA, they kind of like focuses on the biodiversity and ecosystem as a tools to reduce the vulnerabilities. And this is also kind of like sometimes we call it as the nature-based solutions. EBA is kind of like the one of the approach under the nature-based solutions that aim at like try to use the ecosystems to address the well-being and also to make sure that we can adapt to. This is kind of like the pictures to compare with you, between using the adaptation without having the community base, or not also, or from the first picture, as you see that we already talked earlier about the sea walls. This is adaptation measures. That they do not have the community involvement, but on the other hand, they also not really consider the nature-based solutions. And we already talked about the consequence or negative impacts that it may cause. And below, this is kind of like the nature-based solutions that using the ecological-based system that you can see that it also have the capacities to restore the sediments and also help to prevent the erosions of the shore. And this one, we can see that they apply different method and also involve a lot of the knowledge from the local. So despite we talking about the ecosystem-based adaptations, when we see this kind of like process, we know that it have the elements of community participation, and also it goes together well with the nature. So what difference in your views between the community-based adaptations and the ecological based adaptations? Do you see any similarities, or you see that it has different benefits, or which approach that it fit better in your view? Or do you confuse in the beginning when I read about the community-based adaptation and ecosystem-based or ecological-based adaptation? I sometimes also confuse that which one I should go for. I don't know if you have also similar experience with that. Or which one you prefer?
I think if I come in, I prefer both, or rather the overlap, the combination of both, and that could be way I'm thinking, and you can correct me. When they overlap, that's where the ecosystem services become more sustainable for climate change for the people. For example, if you bring a community consultation around how we're going to be working on a floodplain areas where it often floods, and the suggestion is that you bring in plants that can reduce the water runoffs, and then you can use that area for food production and all that, and also for nature, for people to have a pleasant environment around. That would be the overlap of community-based adaptation and ecosystem-based adaptation. So you have both working together, and I that's all. My example may not be so refined, but I'm just on top of my head. I'm just thinking about these two. If you bring the two together, then you have better benefits.
Yeah, totally agree with, and I think that is others may also share a similar opinion. That in fact this is kind of like the two approaches that maybe it need to work together, right? And it has both strengths that it require in the adaptations. It become more common that environment and development orientations need to integrate the both of the community and also from the ecosystem point of view in the adaptations. And the integrated approach is somehow it help us to kind of like break down the artificial divide, and also it can actually combine between using the traditional adaptation knowledge plus using the science knowledge, and also having the aims to use the have like environmental sustainability objective to also strengthen the community actions. But on the other hand, we do not like forget, or we do not aim just to having the environmental improvement, but this also should lead to empowerment of local people, and that also maybe to address the aims of the human rights, if you like to. So that is how we can actually combine and integrate the two approach together. I think maybe we need some break just for your physical breaks, or you need coffee. So maybe maybe have about 10 minutes break. We can in Thailand now is 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So shall we actually come back again in 10 minutes for your, I don't know where you're from, but you can actually check your time, right? Maybe we meet again in 10 minutes. Is that okay? Okay, thank you. Okay, it's about 4:10, 10 in Thailand. Are you ready for participant online? Just let me know by thumb ups. So if you already now back to your seat. Okay, thanks. It's evening of Thailand, so it's a little bit low energy for many of us. I don't know how to energize things online by Zoom. But if you feel so tired, also feel free to just exercise, or if you like any discussions to help you awake, yeah, just open the mic. Okay, so shall we continue? For the second part, I think it's going to be a little bit more sharing about some tools or some methods for the vulnerability assessment. Okay, back to the slide. By maybe firstly just try to get to know more about the words in the climate change adaptations, because I think this is also important, kind of like terms or terminologies that it maybe help us to understand better about the climate change adaptations. And one of the very most important words is the vulnerabilities. As mentioned earlier about the concept of the climate change adaptations, it means the adjustment to the future or the current climate impact, and it requires changes in process and practice, including structure. And at the end, it hope to be kind of like the help to reduce the vulnerabilities. And what is actually the vulnerabilities? Here, we can see that vulnerabilities in the climate change context, it refers to the potential of negative effects resulting from the impacts of climate change. And the vulnerability, however, like the same kind of risk, may actually differ from based on the gender or wealth status, or the mobility or the other factors. Meaning, like we may not actually have the same kind of like result because we are different, yeah, from different background factors. Therefore, in vulnerability assessment, we have to make sure that we cover all groups of people and the power dynamics in the communities, or not trying to think that the community is homogeneous and everyone will have the same kind of impacts or effect from the climate change. And again, try to understand from that concept of the adaptations and also the terms of the vulnerabilities, and how we can understand the vulnerabilities. And in the climate change adaptation, they often have this kind of like formula that vulnerabilities means the exposure plus sensitivities plus the adaptive capacities. So you can measure or assess how a person's or the communities is vulnerable to the climate change threats or hazard. It up to or depending on the exposures that they are exposed to, or the sensitivity of the climate threats, and also depending on the adaptive capacities. Altogether, you can therefore measure or assess a person's or the community's vulnerabilities. However, how we understand about each one of these wordings like exposures. So here, just try to also again ask you to participate a little bit more. We will start from firstly exposures. Anyone want to share what is the exposures mean? Just to try to break your late evening or late afternoon tiredness or boring. Anyone want to share what is exposure? Okay, anyway. So exposures here is the terms that I review. It means that the presence of people, livelihoods, or species, or even ecosystems, so many things that could be adversely affected. Here also they have ways to explain the exposures that it is a resource that located in an area that experiencing the climate change, meaning like how likely, in my words, exposures, I often think it as about how likely that we will actually face with the climate change hazards, or that the threats from the climate change. So where or locations or situations that make you likely to be affected, that is considered, in my view, as exposure. So sensitivities, so it means the degrees to which a system is affected, and sometimes, in my words, this is also how serious or how what is the degrees that you will be affected, or that system is going to be affected. So that is how I will consider as sensitivities. And then the adaptive capacities, it means that the ability of a system to adjust to the climate change. Yeah. And this is about so many factors. No? We will see in the next slide that what is required or what is included in the adaptive capacity, but that is talking about the your abilities, yeah, to adjust, and altogether we will provide the level of vulnerabilities that we are having towards the climate change. Is that clear? Or anyone want to ask or share anything about this formula or this type, like ways to think about the vulnerabilities? Okay, otherwise I goes to the next. And finally, sorry, we can actually identify the climate change vulnerabilities, and that means a degree to which a system is susceptible to or unable to cope with the adverse effects of climate change. So that is how we're talking about the climate change vulnerabilities. Yeah. And then let's see this example. So this is example or the real pictures from a community in Thailand. It is a community that residing in protected area in Thailand, and they're living here without having the tenure rights, or they are in a very unclear situation whether that they own this land or how actually they can exercise the management in this area. And in about last year, they affected by a heavy flash flood, and the mud, like the what is called the river of mud, just like charged into the whole community, and they are submerged under that mud and water, and also roads are blocked because of the landslide, and the access into the communities to provide help and or going out from the communities are so difficult. So what this community is exposed to and how sensitivity it is. Yeah. How you think about this picture? Or anyone want to share? Like firstly, what this community is exposed to?
Okay, I would like to say something.
Yeah.
Okay, looking at this, this community is exposed to one high risk of like flooding. As you can see, the floods is already taking over the community, and also the third picture where erosion Yeah, erosion, which leads one to flooding, and the land becomes like degraded. Um, leaf biomass can't stay. The land is virtually like can't plants can't really grow on it because one, there will be a lot of leaching, erosion, leaching, and obviously the soil won't be good enough to make plants or trees grow there. So yeah, that's what I can say.
Yeah, yeah. So the things that this community are exposed to, there are many things that combine together. It is extreme events that happens, not that so regularly. It has been one of 100 years record that they have heavily rainfall. So they have like a continuous rain. All this area actually it is community forest area that they've been protected a long time. But because of the heavy rainfall, no, and they've been continuous for many days, so they no longer like the forest can no longer hold the water, and then the whole community they exposed to that flash flood, and also the muds that cover the whole village. And again, because they are living close to the forest, and this type like land is so I can say soft and also difficult to actually hold the soil. So they also got blocked by the landslide. And the level of sensitivity is that because they are just in the middle of the forest, and they are also actually have no land security, somehow they also do not do much of infrastructure development around here, or no projects that they develop infrastructure that they can prevent this kind of like threats. So this is also that how we can apply to assess the adaptive capacity of the village. And in the next slide, you also can see that what is the adaptive capacities. Like as we talked earlier, that when we try to identify the adaptations measures, firstly it started with that what is the vulnerabilities of that particular communities by looking from the exposures, sensitivity, and adaptive capacities. And when we're talking about exposures, it also meaning like we have to identify that which threats that we are talking about, like drought or the heavy rainfall, or we're talking about the heat wave. And in the sensitivity terms, so we look at the demographic factor of water or energy or land, so that we can identify the degrees of the effects that it will happen to the communities. But then on the adaptive capacities, so here normally we look at the livelihoods assets framework, or the in here it has like things called like human capitals, or the social capital, physical capital, and financial capital, that are the very common asset of sustainable livelihoods, that if a community or a persons they have strong asset or capital in all four elements, so they would normally have a better capacity than the ones that have the less capital around these four areas. And that it define the adaptive capacity of a person or of a communities. And we talked earlier that vulnerabilities it may differ because of backgrounds, and those backgrounds are normally framed under the sustainable livelihood frameworks, or according to this asset or capitals. We can look again in this slide on the sustainable livelihood frameworks, that it meaning like our life, our living that can be sustained. Normally, it requires to have at least five capitals or assets, no, that mentioned earlier, like the natural capital, economic, human, physical, and social. I don't know how much you're already familiar with these livelihood frameworks. For example, when we're talking about natural capitals, can you think about what actually is the natural capitals? Can you just share your opinion about this? Anyone want to try?
That is the forest and also anything natural, land, assets. That's the natural capital.
Exactly. And I think for economic, that also quite straightforward, right? So we're talking about income or talking about your capacities to earn incomes, and also maybe facilities, yeah, that allow you to actually do the economic activities. For the socials, so this can mean how like education's level you have, or sorry, social means maybe your networks, your networkings, or how well connected you are with the other groups. So that is the social capitals. For the humans, this is maybe about like educations, or the health of your communities, how people are actually well fit. And lastly, about physical, it can also mean like as you see in the previous pictures, the roads, how accessible they are, or do they have actually internet connections or something like that. So these are all like the capitals that make a communities or an individuals be able to have a good life or have a sustainable livelihoods. But if any of these are actually degraded or not in kind of like in a good positions, that means your capacities to have a good livelihoods or have a sustainable livelihood may not be possible. And similarly, in the situation of the climate change, if your capitals are not that so strong, so your capacities to adapt to the changes may be less than the one that have a strong assets. So that is how the concept of sustainable livelihoods are being used in the community-based adaptations. As you can see also from this graph or from these pictures, so the climate change threats or from the other hazard, like natural hazards, will impact or will affect to our livelihoods. But how much or what is the degrees, or meaning like the sensitivities that we will have from this climate change, it depending upon these 5 categories of our livelihood assets, yeah. And also it require or it has to balance also with the enabling environments. For example, that we have also connection or support with the other groups or the community themselves very been well organized. So I think this is also the another elements that will identify our capacity to adapt to the climate change. I don't know if this is something clear to you, or yeah, if that makes sense. Okay. Then maybe we continue. Look on the another things again, back to the vulnerability assessment. As we talk a lot already that when we're talking about the climate adaptations, the vulnerability assessment is a very important and the first steps of the CBA. And when we're talking about the assessment, there are 3 elements, right, that we have to identify, starting from the exposures, and from the sensitivity and from the adaptive capacity. Here, I just try to present some examples of parameters to assess these 3 elements, just for your familiarity, and also just in case that you want to check again if when you're conducting the vulnerability assessment, you have covered this kind of information, or when we interact with the communities, or when we try to understand the communities, do we already have this kind of information in place? For example, when we're talking about the exposures, Normally, we need to know about percentage of the households reporting that having the land degraded as a result of the climate factors. Like we need to maybe know numbers of families that having these problems, or numbers of the meters that hand pumps needed to be deepened to reach water, meaning like because they would not have the irrigation system and just only depending on the well or the groundwater. And so if they have to actually go and deeper, go find the water deeper, and that's mean they have a high exposures to the drought. And also like average number of floods and drought in the last 30 years, and also the daily average maximum temperature by month, and daily precipitations by month, for example. You can actually go through and check again this slide if you like to know that if you already have this information in place. And for the sensitivity, so some parameters that maybe you can collect when visit the community. For example, the average food insufficiency month per years, or the percentage of the household using only the forest-based biomass for cooking, or the average time that they have to fence firewood for their household needs. So this is will identify the sensitivities for communities or households, yeah. And also for the adaptation capacities, there are some parameters that you can check, for example, on the crop diversification index, or education levels that we talked earlier, that is the human capital, or the percentage of the households that have TVs or radios. But now I think maybe like mobile phone, no? Or internet connections. That is maybe also the new context, yeah. And also like percentage of people that improve cooking stoves, or the percentage of household with rainfall storage facilities. So these are kind of like just examples of how we can quickly assess the vulnerabilities of the communities or households in our area. Okay. Let me know if you have questions or any comments on this. No? And you can actually go and find more information from these publications called Community-Based Vulnerability Assessments from the CARE International. Okay. Okay. Just again, to recap that when we're talking about the climate change adaptation, we have 4 steps, right? And we in today's discussion, we will mainly focus on the first step, that is about the assess impacts and vulnerability and risk, in order to identify the risk, the vulnerability, and that help us to plan the adjustment. And the next slide. I will also share another tools to identify the threats, because that is how we can deep dive into the problems that communities encounter regarding the climate variables. When we're talking about climate variables, there are for example, the increasing frequency of drought. So that is kind of like climate variables that help us to track that this is one of the climate impacts that the community already encounter. But however, when we're talking about the climate threats, it's difficult to just only name the climate variables without really be able to go deeper or try to trace further informations based on the community experience. So it's also important for us when we go to do the vulnerability assessment, or when we try to conduct the community-based adaptations, we need to also be able to understand better what experiences they are having from the climate variables that identify. And this is just example of how you should probe, or we can actually discuss with the local people. For example, when we're talking about the frequency of drought, what normally happens after that, or what experience they are actually see as a result of having more frequency of drought. For example, so when you have more frequency of drought, so you often see that water it becomes crusty, right? And also because of the drought, so you start lost or losing the crops, and the small livestock starting to die. So these are like consequences of the variables, and from each one we can probe more as like the mind map of the problems, like from the water scarcity, what problems that they further impact, like they're starting to have the waterborne diseases. And then because of the less water, they increase workload for women. And because of they do not have water or access to clean water, they're starting to have diarrhea of livestock. And for the loss of crops, what actually are the consequence or the further consequences that they have faced, like from the losing of crops, they start to lose incomes. And also because of the loss of crops, they start to have food deficits. Yeah. And because of the death of the livestock, so they also have now the problems for loss of income, and also they start also having the food deficits. So this is how normally we should have conversations, or we should go and ask more in the community assessment, and it should not only like collect the very general picture or information about the climate, but it should be able to go and explore in further details to understand the climate threats from the climate variables. And this is just one example. There is another example of the other climate variables. I don't know if you like to do this exercise by yourself, just to gauge your appetite in the evening in Thailand. You want to actually do as a group, or you want to do individually? Yeah. Which which climate variables that you want to try to do the exercise? Can you just name one? You understand already, know what is the climate variables, yeah? Okay, I still waiting if anything you want to share as example. So this is too little water. How about that we do too much water? Is that okay? If we have too much water, or the extreme amount of rain that fall in just a short time. So from that climate variables, what do you think would be impacts of climate threats from too much rainfall in a short time? Okay, you can just open your mind and share. Because I'm not good in the chat and try to check from the chat. So I will actually want to ask you to type, but this is maybe not easy for me to operate the system. Can you
There's
just
too much water, if I may say something.
Yeah.
If there's too much water, there could be the risk of flooding.
Yeah. Okay. What else that we maybe face when we have too much water, especially from the a short durations of rainfall. The amount of rainfall is enormous, and that not regular patterns of rain. Yeah. So definitely we have floods, yeah, and anything else.
So if there's a lot of floods and there will be lots of water running off, if the
Yeah.
land is, then you have erosion, and you also have loss of crops. You also have loss of animals, maybe death of people if there's a
Yeah.
high flood. And all this will impact on the household income.
Yeah, actually, you go the whole chain for me now. That is excellent. Yeah, because we do not maybe have a good ways to exercise this together, no, in participatory and in the visual. But that is how actually we try to map the change of the climate variables to the climate threats, like starting from just one particular event, and then you can see the consequences and map that threats. So you can see that actually the result, it may goes beyond just about the nature or the problems in the disaster, but it result to also maybe the loss of lives, or maybe losing of the opportunities. For example, like schooling, it may be so difficult, school closing, right? That impacts to the children opportunities, for example. In Thailand, I don't know if you have heard that case already. We just have a very, very big flood in the south Thailand, in Hat Yai province. It is a very odd and unusual phenomenon of the heavy rainfall in a short durations. And like some people say that it's just like you not actually drop water, like it's not about rain that drop the water from the sky, but it's about you throwing water out from a bucket, like the amount of water that people face, and the heavy of the rain is that kind of like imagination that you throw the whole bucket, but continuously for several days, and therefore that whole district got flooded quickly, and overflow of the water came from the rivers, and they never have any warning system. So people got stuck. It's not only about that people have heavy floods, but because people did not move out quickly enough, so they got stuck in house, and some house there are only one storage, no, like they don't have no second floor, and they kept themselves in that kind of like just one store house, and some people die just under, like they submerged in their own home, for example. So that is kind of like just one particular event, and consequence is that can be the death of people, not only the flooding, and also like they have triple the further threat now they are having is also about the economic situations of the province. They could not actually now restart and restore lives after the floods. So that is how we can actually map the threats of the climate in such a way that we can understand the vulnerabilities of the communities. Is that something useful? Okay, shall we then go next? And from that kind of like the climate threats exercise, just also try to find example from the other publications, and some recommendations. Like this one, the publication developed by USAID and RECOPS try to do the community forest-based climate change adaptations. And the focus that I just want to share with you is about how we're going to identify the climate threats and impacts. And again, just to exercise that when we try to do the identifications of the vulnerabilities, this is one of the ways that you can do the assessment together with the communities, starting from using the climate variables that we earlier used the case of the drought or the floods. So that is the climate variables. And in this type like publications or practitioner brief, they also try to identify sector that where or which sector that we are talking about. And here example is from the agriculture sector, and then they identify what impacts they are having from the temperatures. Like in this one, they face the impacts that they have hot season temperature, and that make the field works difficult. And in terms of the climate change threats, what problems they are having. So they have the issues about the more intense, hotter dry season, and this also lead to changing of seasonality. Yeah. So that is actually ways that you can start doing at the community level by using this kind of metrics. Yeah. Or in the forest sector, starting from like try to map from the temperatures, so you can learn that what is actually the impact from the local knowledge. So they said they used to have like indigenous forest species before, but now it disappeared, right? And the threats that you identify is that because they have more intense dry seasons, and this also can be backed up by scientific or empirical data, like from the temperatures. You may also can go and check the changes of the temperatures in the locations, and compare similar to the what does it call, the plants availabilities, if there is records, so that it can help to identify the climate vulnerabilities. Another example. So in here, from that climate threat in the previous slides. So here, this is the way that you can identify the climate threats, and from the climate threats, how we can identify the vulnerabilities. So we use that last column of the climate threats to further explore. For example, the climate threats is the increasing temperatures and intense heat. And the sector that is facing this is agriculture. Yeah. And you can further discuss with the communities that, and then what consequences that you face from this climate change threats. Like in this one, increasing temperatures make them vulnerable to is that they face the decreasing of crop productivity due to the limited water, and leading to the decreasing of income. So that is how the climate threats can help to link us the discussions about the vulnerabilities. Yeah, this is how the flow of the discussions and assessments can be done in the communities, and this, like, you can even like break down the columns that you want to explore depending on the needs. Like in this one, they want to explore it with like what sector or the impacts that identify, or what existing adaptive capacity already have. So it depending on like what information that you want to gather, but this is some examples of the ways that data got collected, and how you probe the discussions in the community levels. Yeah. This is anything you want to discuss here, or any questions? Okay. Okay, go on, no? But then just some tip about the way that we do or conduct this type like community assessment, is that gender analysis is very, very important, because a way that we gather information and we not consider about the gender differences or sensitivities of the difference of gender roles, it may actually not presenting the real information, yeah, from different groups, and also we may only focus on a particular groups rather that we understand the whole communities. Therefore, they also have some tips that we can do the quick gender analysis. For example, by trying to understand the divisions of gender, or how to understand about the household decision making, like who actually make decisions on what at household levels, and how the productive assets are actually controlled, who actually own what in a family, how you actually participate in public space, like whether that women allowed to join in a particular meetings, or like even like on service, yeah, whether that women can actually be the one that fill forms and sign by themselves. And also yeah, about the violence, if anything that happens, or is there any case and the ways that they can restore the justice or claims any support, no? So that is kind of like tips and also important issues that we should also consider when we conducted anything at the community levels. Yeah. And further from that, kind like the vulnerability assessment, or you prove from the climate variables to the climate threats, and identify the vulnerabilities. What next we can do in order to actually have the plan for actions or plan for the adaptations, right? That is already in the second step, normally in the climate change process. And this is just to quickly presenting example again from the care that they map from the climate threat and identify the adaptation pathway in kind of the chain manner, similar patterns that we should be able to map the situation of the community in this diagram, no? Like starting from what is the climate threats they are facing, and then we prove consequence or impacts of such climate threats. Like in this one, like we talked earlier about the erratic rainfalls, no? That it like bring to like loss of crops and floods, and also loss of the forage or the feeding, and that brings to many problems, no? That you already may see from the slide. For example, they have income loss, or shortage of food, or the market fluctuations, or until like they have diseases because of the loss of crops. And from this type like impact chain, so we can further discuss with the communities that what should be the adaptation pathway. And this can be done in a participatory manner with them, and identify together of like both existing measures or what have already been trial, and together maybe identify the other solutions. For example, maybe it can be irrigation system, and also because of this impact on their income, so we maybe need to think about the saving, or need to have more market informations, and also can think about the diversifications of livelihoods. So options or adaptation pathway, it can be done in a participatory discussions and map together based on the impact chain, no? Like we know problems, we know result of the climate threats, and then we try to map from the impacts to the solutions or pathway towards the climate impacts that already face. On the flood, for example, on the flood, the impacts that now face, and they have problem of the land degradations, or the soil fertility loss. So the adaptations pathway that they are now mapped out is like afforestation, or try to do the crop rotations, avoidance of overgrazing. So this can be actually ideas that brainstorm in the communities. However, it needs to somehow be able to map together with the impact chain that link with the climate threats, so that it can reduce the vulnerabilities from the climate change impacts. So that is how we can actually draw from the climate variables to be the adaptation pathway. And also we can plan in kind of like the stages or in the timeline, if you like to, that which actions or which solutions need to urgently start, or it can be like a midterm or long-term plan, because some of the actions, it may be require time for changes, or some action it cannot wait, and it need to immediately respond to the needs. So it can be identified as urgent actions. For example, the crop rotations, it's something that can no longer wait because the flood that came every year. So you need to somehow already change to have a new rotation or new patterns of the crop planting, or maybe we can have the early warning system that are very important because of the pattern of the disaster. It keep changing, or it happens so frequent. So this system is maybe immediately required. Whereas some of the other actions, it can be like staged in a longer duration, like the irrigation system may take time, or doing the crop diversifications for become the agroforestry, it may be require a longer durations, so that it can maybe placed in the midterms or in the long term. So it can maybe require a longer interventions. So that is how we also can help the company identify actions and know which need to come first, or what it actually can be in a longer stage for the interventions. Okay, I will go quickly, and then we can have a break again if you like to. Just to share again for that how we can exercise to identify the possible options to respond to the vulnerabilities. This again from the exercise or the previous work from the USAID, that just to share that how you can use the metrics. Sorry, how you can use the metrics of like the climate change threats and identify the broad options of response. For in this one, for example, it identify that changing of seasons and changing of the forest compositions is the climate change threats. In this kind of metrics, you can learn that what are the parameters. Sorry, what are the components? Yeah. In the analysis, you can have like if we can identify the climate change threats, like changing of the forest compositions. You can also identify the frequency of threats, like if that something regularly happens, or it like a gradual change. And the vulnerabilities. So here, from the changing of forest compositions, so you can see that it's starting to have the decreasing availability of the useful multiple purpose tree species, and also declining of biodiversity within a small forest, and also starting to have the loss of original forest ecosystems. So that is how you can actually link and try to prove from the climate threats to the vulnerabilities. And also you can have also a columns to identify or indicate the seriousness of the impact. This is depending on the evidence, like so you have like a series of like shift of the tree species, and also you can rate as well the vulnerabilities, that this is like the high or low degrees of the vulnerabilities. And finally, from this kind of metrics, the discussion with the community or among the experts together with the communities, you can identify the broad options to respond. For example, maybe from the shifting or changing of the forest compositions, you can starting to support the corridor, no? To have a corridor, to have the linkage of the different forest patches, or starting to have the seed bank and do the afforestations and implement the civic culture management, and encourage to have like a bee or the natural pollinations. So that is kind of like ways that you can map and identify problems to actions. Okay. Another example, changing of seasonalities for the agriculture. Earlier it is for the forest sector, but if it is changing of seasonality and in the agriculture, so we can again doing the frequency of the threats, like this is being continuously, or it decreasing, or it is happen so regularly. So that is also something that you can identify in the matrix. And also from that, you can identify the vulnerabilities, that what consequence happens after having the changing of seasonalities. Like in this one, it means that reductions or decreasing of the agricultural productivities and income, and also the seriousness of this. They also identify that declining price actually result to the because of the this is actually they also facing the declining price, yeah, and also the vulnerability is high, and therefore the options in order to reduce the vulnerabilities, so it can be the diversification of the agricultural crops, and also have the buffer, and pest break, and also having the natural pest predator, including also trying to have the using of the compost manure, and also try to delay the planting times, like further or prolong the planting days. So something like that. This is how normally you can start by identify the threats until you identify the possible broad option of responses. Okay. There are also other more example which I think you can read further later. But I don't know if you like to have any discussions or yeah, any questions? Sound good? Seem everything's clear?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, please.
Yes, and I find this the whole course really interesting because I'm just connecting the dots of other things. When you presented the livelihood framework, which had a pentagon shape with the physical and human, social, and all that, economic, there's a an argument, or rather, there's a thinking that is said that we need to include the livelihood framework, the political aspect, because in many of the developing countries in global south, there's a lot of instability. So this framework, which is developed by academics, sometimes may not be operationable in the global south, where things are, for example, climate change. Okay, we have climate change, but the climate change is hurting in the heart of human security, not the land only, but you have lots of people getting displaced, refugee crisis. So then how do you deal with refugee crisis if you don't have political stability in the land? You have people going out of the land, and the land is being abandoned. Should a favorable time comes back to the land, or they will have rain and all that, you have no people. And then who's going to be tending the land, and where would the community-based adaptation take place? So political framework, it has to include in aspects of so it's capital, the political capital. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, I think that is a very good sharing. Just want to share back the slide about the Pentagon. Okay, here. So you refer to this whole Pentagons, no? In fact, this picture may not have that explicit mention about the policy or political actions or political assets. But normally, if I recall correctly, normally the political is belong to the enabling environment. It require also this factor that determine the healthy of the five assets of a livelihoods or in the communities, meaning like whether that we can have this whole five elements assets strong and stable. It also depending upon the enabling environments like the political situation or policy interventions, and as you said, in the situation of the climate change. So many communities are vulnerable, and then they may not be able to have political support well enough. They are really been very vulnerable and maybe displaced without having the political support. So their total livelihood assets may not be able to actually secure, and therefore they are even more vulnerable to the threats. And then that is, I think it's still very relevant and important to have that interventions and considerations about the policy interventions in this diagram. And agree with you that somehow applying this whole concept, like academic concept, in a practical or in the field level is not that easy. We not often have enough time or luxury of having whole teams to support and collect data in systematic manner, which I also face a similar challenge, which sometimes we cannot imagine to have everything ready. But I think this is maybe just to help us to have the, I can say, framework when we actually discuss or when we gather information. It's just about try to make sure that we not only look from one side or try to only see the situations of the individual or the whole family from only just one angle, but try to also understand from the other dimensions. Because on one hand, they may actually have a good aspect of like, how can I say, the nature of the natural aspect. But on the other hand, they may be in the difficult situation, like because lacking of land tenure, it may actually also make their total asset, in fact, in a very vulnerable situation, for example. So that is how I apply this framework. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Anyone else that want to have just one last comments on this? Then we can have a break again. No, I think it already 1 hour. We run out of time just of the first of the second part. We still have one more for the last part to go. Yeah, but you still can have one comment if you like to. Okay. Okay, otherwise we can have another maybe 5 to 7 minutes break. Yeah, you can have a bio break, and then yeah, we come back, and last part is going to be about sharing the cases and how yeah, we apply and use the case of Thailand just to maybe in order to maybe see things in practice how it goes. Yeah. Okay, maybe about because I have a limited time, just afraid about 10 minutes. Maybe try to have about 7 minutes, no? Okay, see you then. Oh, I've been talking without open the mic. Sorry. Are you okay to start now? If you are okay, please, can you just show the thumb up? Yeah, sorry. I thought that I already opened the mic. That is 5 p.m. here. That is the effects of the long day. Okay, just maybe a few more slides, and also you can see examples now. For the next part is going to be about the resilience and how we can enhance the resilience of the smallholders. Just to recap that based on the previous discussions, and if we go to sum up, what are key factors that important and can help enhancing the adaptive capacity of smallholders? This is my summary. That there are maybe at least 3 components that we should consider, and also link it with the previous discussion, the earlier discussion, that when we're talking about applying this into the livelihood framework. So there are perhaps 3 important elements. Firstly, it's about accessing to resources and informations. An example of how we can actually enhance the capacities of smallholders. Firstly, we can consider about the access of finance. So how the smallholders can access to credits, and how the finance support is comes to the times that farmer needs to invest in the adaptation strategies, like including maybe they have to recover from losses, and also access to the information like climate information and extension services, which should come timely and have accurate information, like the weather information, and also the services like extension service, and also to help them to have decision about the planting times or the crop varieties. So that is can be important resources and informations. And another element is about infrastructure and technologies, like investing in the water management infrastructure, and importantly, like promoting the climate smart technologies. And also, lastly, very important is the land ownership, that been talking a lot already in the today discussions, that how secure land ownerships is very important for enhance the capacity of the smallholders, and also this can encourage the long-term investments and the land improvements. And the second elements or the key factors for the enhancing adaptive capacity is the social and human capital. This means educations and experiences, like having educations and also the farming experience, and those experience are like help them to adopt to the wider range of adaptive strategy, and that's why it is important as the social and human capital. And the second element is on the social networks and farmer groups, like being in the farmer networks, or works as cooperatives, provide the valuable access of information and sharing of the learning, including the collective bargaining power. And the third is on the income diversifications. So how we can encourage to also have the non-farm employment opportunities, because sometimes depends only one source of income, like from agriculture alone, can be too risky in the climate situation. So providing the alternative income sources can help them to buffer when the time of the climate risk. And also under this one, also including having the traditional knowledge. Despite we talking a lot about the new experience and education, but still the traditional knowledge is important, and also local knowledge about the nature can be more effective no? And already test at local level that it going to work. So that is, we should also try to acknowledge and recognize better about this. And last is on the institutional and policy support, like the policy that help to have a clear guidelines and incentives that help the farmer to adopt the climate resilient policy are essential. No? Like many times, this kind of policy announced in the paper, but often may not have actually the real investments. So not only about having the policy support, but also it requires to really have a budgeting and also real enforcement of the policy. And last is on the collaborations among different actors and especially with the private sector, so that it can actually make the implementation of the adaptation realized. And these are just like a quick summary of when we're talking about the enhancing adaptive capacity of smallholders, which also just again use this framework of the CARE International to remind that when we're talking about the community-based adaptations, the components that can help to make this adaptation successful, composing of all elements, like starting from the climate resilient livelihoods. It also requires to have the disaster reductions, and also these all actions need to identify and help to addressing underlying causes of vulnerabilities. And lastly, how it can actually be sustained in organizational capacity by also having the policy environment support. So that is when we're talking about the adaptive capacity that can be continued and being implemented. These are the things that we should consider. And next, I will just share example from the case that RECOP's done one of the projects, try to adopt the ecosystem-based adaptations, but we also very much based on the community involvement. And this can be an example that how we can enhance the adaptive capacity of smallholders. This project called Trees for All. It is the project that got supported by the WIS Academy for Nature and also from the global EBA funds. And the locations and the pilots that we have is based on an experience of the Nan province landscape that RECOP has been working for several years. And the area that we work is the border between Thailand and Laos, and it one of the most poor province of the countries. But on the other hand, it is the area that produce and supply the water to major river of Thailand, which is called Chao Phraya. That is the main blood of the Thailand, especially for the Bangkok province. And Nan River produce over 40% of the water and contributing to Chao Phraya, and therefore it has a large impact if this watershed land has been degraded. And however, the area has been degraded a lot in the past 2 decades due to the expansions of the cash crop like maize productions. So again, this is just how these locations looks like. So it is a mountainous highland area that has been degraded over the past 20 years. And also they have a large area that are considered as the forest lands under the management of the Royal Forest Department in Thailand. And this project started in order to change the situation that believe that the degraded forest land is responsible of smallholders, and people in the downstream trying to point the finger and saying that the smallholders should take responsibility in try to restore and helping to manage the forest. But because we want to actually encourage the collective action from the people downstream and the smallholder in the upstream, and we initiate the project called Tree for All in order to raise the funds from the downstream urbaners in order to support the farmers by trying to ask them to donate the funds, and the projects help to facilitate the restoration and tree planting. And now we have over 173 participating farmers and restore over 20,000 trees, and with the various native species in this upland area. And in terms of the background of the locations, not only that they have been facing the degraded land and the deforestation, this province also has been facing with many climate threats. For example, they have like unpredictable rain pattern. They have like a shifting of seasons and extreme weather, extreme temperatures. Either drought or too many water or too many rainfall, and always the area, if they have like a lot of rainfall, so the landslide it happens so regularly, and that block the travel, and also sometimes killing people, killing life of peoples. Many community are facing with like the flash flood or the landslide that just like put the whole village down under the earth. So that is a very normal situation of this area. And their vulnerability is that because they're depending too much on the monocroppings, and they have faced also the crop failures because of the climate threats, the soil erosions, because of they have bare land without the soil covering plants. So a lot of the soil, the surface soil, actually just like flood together with the floods, and also they have the issues about the natural disaster, like in this one, in these pictures. In terms of their assets, their livelihoods assets, so they have very insecure land tenure situations. As you see that this area is mountainous area, and in Thailand, the mountainous area and the land that under the forest management, people could not actually obtain to have the land title. Majority of the farmer, they only use the land without having the formal recognitions, and that becomes so challenging for this area to develop any infrastructure, or because of the high altitude, they also lack of the irrigation system or water supply for their farming. Therefore, our interventions by starting using the donations from the downstream people, we aim and we try to bring the message to the people who sponsor and donate that we want to restore this land, because majority of the land use is they has been using for the corn field or the corn plantations, and that caused the heavy soil degraded, and also the farms has to use a lot of chemical inputs to boost the productivity of the plantations, and that has been like continued for a number of years until that the soil quality has been degraded and could not really bring any like fertility or productivity to the farm. And our interventions, because we apply also both of the ecosystem or ecological based adaptations together with the participations of the communities, we identify that in order to improve this, it requires 3 interventions, starting that how we can stop or reduce the soil erosions, which is to prevent the losing of the fertility, And also we want to make sure that we can have the drought tolerance plants. So that is how we can actually restore the land. And secondly, we still see that the farmer need to have the cash from the farming. We cannot only like with the farmer to earn fruits and income from the long rotation trees. So in these farms or in the restoration process, it also requires to have a short-term cash crops that can be, for example, the peanuts that help to protect also the soil cover. And the last one is the perennial crops, meaning like we need to have also the standing trees that can also help to reduce the temperatures and also to make the shading in the area so that the ecosystem at farms can start to regenerate themselves. And this is how we actually mobilize the funds. We're using the crowdfunding source by starting to do the campaign online. And the platform is presenting also that how we collect the funds. We use about $4 as the rate of the donations, and we try to also presenting that how the finance will be allocated. We try to have majority of the funds directly donate to farmers, and the farmer can take care of the trees for 3 years. And also we have the monitoring systems, and the donors can actually track and see the changes from the dashboard that we have it online under the treesforallthailand.org platform. And this is how we can starting to incentivize farmer and make sure that they have the finance support so that they do not feel as a burden to start having the trees on farm, and because they have to actually losing some part of their land that normally they plant the cash crop. So this is one way that we can incentivize them to starting to adopt the adaptation measures like tree planting. And also we try to introduce some tools, especially using scientific and technologies that help them to record information in a systematic manner. This include also we have to do the tree growth measurements, and also we upload these informations so that the sponsors or donors of the trees can actually track the informations. And this also including the training of young people, helping them to earn also from the tree monitoring, because they also can earn income from the tree monitoring system like this. So we pay them the work that they commission into the projects. And now what we are expecting from that intervention. So after the intervention, so we're starting to see tree on farm. And this kind of like area is that the former maize or corn plantations. And because having this type of trees, this is some kind of like diplocap that also generate a lot of mushrooms. So people starting to feel also that this can become also their food sources, not only the trees plot area alone. And also we can start seeing the improvement of the soil quality, and also we plan to having the ground cover crop so that it can help the soil become fertile, and can be also the what does it call, compost, or maybe can be feeding for the livestock also. And this is another intervention that we provided. We introduced raising of the something called stingless bee. It kind of bee native bees that without the stings, but also produce honey, and also the amount or the cost of these kind of like stingless bee honey can over like the price of the normal honey like 3 times, because it also have like a quality to be the medicine, and also the taste. Sometimes people say that it is taste better than the normal honey. So that is how we provide the interventions and make sure that farmer can experience the intervention of adaptations that also based on the nature components and the restorations of the land can also bring them the new incomes and livelihood options, which can also be kind of like ways that they can cope with the threats either from the economic elements or maybe also from the climate elements, so that we feel that this is how the pathway of the climate resilience can be developed or be suggested to the farmer. And we can summarize that when we're talking about the climate resilience, what are the important elements? So we have 3 dimensions that we try to monitor our interventions. Like firstly, from the environmental perspective. So we also try to make sure that we have diversification on farm, like mixing of like different crops, from the perennial wooded trees to the shrub or to the grass and soil cover plants, and also make sure that we have the erosion prevention measures, and also we have the improve of the microclimate. And on the second element is on the economic. So we also have to diversify source of incomes and also access to finance. And in this case, for example, we try to finance the sponsor of trees by using the crowdfunding. And last is that we have like the social components. We help to the farmers to learn from each other, like they have the peer support and also they have the network among themselves. And also we help to bring the policy discussion with the government on how that the land tenure of this farmer can be clarified. At least they be confident that they be able to continue using the land. And also they have the land use monitoring, meaning that they will not further encroach into the forest, and also the demarcations of their land use has been identified. So that are the components that we are now working on under the Trees for All. Before I go to a few more slides, I don't know if you like to have any conversations or questions about the case of Trees for All. Okay. Let me know if this is go too fast. I will then.
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, my question is, in communities where their major source of let me use firewood, but the cooking, their major source of energy for cooking is the firewood that's cutting down of trees, making their communities exposed to climate change due to no trees, the land is bare and they're not replanting. So what solution do we prefer to such communities where their source of energy for cooking is purely wood, and that they don't have any other option than to cut down trees that are within their community, and there are no strategies or plans put in place for them to replace those trees? So what do we do in such situation? That's my question.
Well, thank you. However, may I ask more about the context? Do they actually be able to actually exercise the community forest, or can they have the rights to grow and harvest trees in their land?
No, they don't. There's no there are no policies guiding those trees within these local communities. These people, that actually migrants, they find themselves in such communities and they're looking for energy to cook, and they go cut I call it indiscriminate cutting down of trees, because there are no policies that guard those trees within the community. So they just feel that, okay, they need trees. There are no specific forests to say. They are just trees that are planted out either by natural, occurrence. That's how those trees came to be. Not that they were intentionally planted. Those trees were like just grew. They just grew there by natural occurrence. So there are no policies per se that are guiding these trees. So that's why local communities just feel that they have the right to cut down those trees. So how do we? Because I have an example. Coming to these communities for an intervention, they will like this is our only source of energy. So why do you encourage no cutting of trees? Then can you provide any other source of energy? Because within these communities, they are very poor communities where no access to light, no good road, no water. So they just make do with whatever they have within their community. So how do we do in such kind of case?
Yeah, that is also very interesting. In my view, I think firstly, if there is no clear kind of like a governance or system that recognize the practice of the communities, it is therefore has to encourage the communities to organize and also having the management plannings. And this is something called community forestry management. Because community forest management is customary rights, and it is something that can be practiced if the community they have the ways and regulations that adopt and also recognize among themselves. Because we also do not want to actually destroy the whole forest, right, or destroy the whole land because of the energy consumptions. Therefore, they can have their management system in place in order to start planting and do the harvesting regulations, and in order to also be able to maintain that system if they have no other options of energies. So that is how they can actually set up their own regulation and system in place, which in my view, if they be able to somehow do the management planning, they should be able to obtain the wood for energy. But however, this is where maybe civil society or local NGOs perhaps can provide the support for them because they may not have that abilities to gather information and do the assessment on the amount of wood that required. Plus, also, I think you're going to learn from different lecturers or the other presenter about the silvicultures. And in this particular case, I think that is maybe a good example that how you can apply the silvicultures in order to serve the needs or the energy consumptions. But on the other hand, I still see that beyond about the silviculture, I think the policy support and encouragement that there is a clarity on the guideline from the government on the community forestry practice and recognitions may also help to make sure that people will follow and also respect the management plan, because this is where you can ensure about the sustainable forest management, right? If you still do not have the other ways to access to energy sources. Yeah, I don't know if that's somehow relevant to your question.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. I may actually go to the next one, and then if we still have other questions, we can have a discussion after this. Okay, just maybe another note that when we're talking about the community, this is just a reminder that the community is not homogeneous, no. Again, back to the issues about the gender or about the different diversifications of experience or maybe wealth status. When we're talking about the enhancing the smallholders or the community resilience, just want to remind that community is not the same. We still have to also differentiate their backgrounds, and also we need to make sure that we cover perspective of different groups. And also because they have different knowledge and perceptions about the climate change, their vulnerability are also different. So therefore, when we try to come up with adaptation interventions, it just to be mindful that it has to be somehow differentiate, and also thinking about the gender perspective also, so that make sure that we not only just make it jeopardize or maybe imbalance of the power is within that measures. Okay. And maybe just to sum up with the resilience, that what are the elements included. Like here, resilience is referred to the capacity of social, economic, and ecological system to cope with the hazardous events or trends, and that can maintain the capacity and can bring to the transformation. So that is when we're talking about resilience, so this is kind of like concepts. And the elements as already like based on the cases that I mentioned earlier of trees fall. So these are the sum up like elements, so that the resilience need to like identify as like increase of capacities and asset to deal with shocks and stress or uncertainty. And this capacity are strongly influenced by people's abilities to access and control the assets. And also it the way to reduce the driver of risk. So meaning like when we're talking about resilience, it's not only about response to the immediate actions or immediate problems, but it need also to reduce the drivers of the risk or the underlying causes, so that it can help to reduce the likelihood of the shocks. And this also may be including like investing in the infrastructure or involved in the effort at avoiding exacerbating the existing risk. So that is maybe the conclusions of the whole point or the discussion about the climate change adaptation and resilience. My only last slide is to sum that what is actually the advantages and also maybe some challenge for the using the community-based adaptations. Maybe just quickly to share you like advantages. So we already see that by using the community-based adaptation, we can address directly to the local needs. They are the cost-effective measures, and also it brings and hope to have like a long-term development and focus on the empowerment of the local communities' capacities. But however, there are also still challenges. For example, they have like issues about scale, that how community-based adaptations can be expanded and replicated, because sometimes it can be only like too little, and also at a very small scale, and still it requires policy support. And lastly, it requires finance support, because many times the community-based adaptations is based on the project's interventions, but not for long-term investments. So that can be something to consider. And I put also the link of some of the publication that I use, and you can also further check, so you can find it from here, the materials that you are maybe interested to explore more. So that's the ends of the session today for my session. But we still have maybe 5 minutes if you still maybe want to have a discussion or any questions. for the whole presentations or on any parts of the presentations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Warangkana. It's very interesting issue that we have discussed during the past 3 hours. I think maybe do anyone have any more question? Maybe it's getting a little bit late in Bangkok, but maybe it's closing to lunchtime in Nigeria, maybe. Yeah, thank you very much, Kun Warangkana, and
Can we have like I don't see anyone for the past 3 hours. Can I just have a quick photo sessions and see who you are actually? Do I actually talk to AI or talk to him?
Yes, Prof.
Okay, can I just see your screen if you are okay to open your video? I see that we have about 16 of us here, right? Oh, okay. สวัสดีค่ะ Can we just have like the how can I say views of everyone's all together? Okay, thank you. Thank you also for many of you that participate actively. I liked the questions and also comments. Also, people put a lot of things in the chat. I think that is very rich and interesting to read. I think that's maybe good to go through after this one, or if you like to. Hi, Ustav. We have one record here. Okay. Maybe it's just for my own capture.
Thank you, Prof.
thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And
Thank you.
for those who would like to have the credit, probably you need to follow the guide by Jentira. She will provide advice what you have to do, what kind of document that you need to submit to us. And don't forget about the report. And also tomorrow, you need to submit the topic of your presentation. I have received some of the topic presentation already. So it's still some time to think about it and submit your presentation topic by tomorrow. Okay. Thank you very much, Kun Warangkana, for your contribution.
The lecture.
And for our students, so
Professor,
yes,
can I ask you a
anyone?
question, Sabit?
Yes.
Professor Sabit. You said something about accreditation. I'm interested in the accreditation, but I thought that as long as we do the outline of the quiz, the report, the presentation, then that would we would automatically be considered for accreditation. Is there anything else we need to do for that?
You also need to provide some kind of document to us. I think Jane could probably explain a little bit more what kind of documents that we need. Jane Tira, please.
Yes. For those who need just to receive the certificate, it's fine. Just following the guideline that Professor Sapit gave you. And for those who want a credit that from the GSPP, maybe I will check that you apply already or not, but because we need the transcript of your bachelor degree and your passport copy of passport and your certificate from your bachelor and your I think this all we need. The graduate school needs from the person who need to get the certificate. Yes, credit, not certificate. But for the certificate, I think if you pass the criteria that Professor Sapit already gave you, that's all fine. Yes. Is this clear?
Let's make it this way. So we probably provide list of your documents need
Yes.
in case that you would like to be accredited for this course. So and we will upload to the shared drive that we normally upload our presentation. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry,
Okay,
ma, please,
then
I
we
have a
see you
question.
guys. Yes.
Yes, I sent an email, was it yesterday? I saw the email regarding evaluation and credit, and I'm interested in that. So I responded to the email, and the the feedback I got was the person was saying he's on leave when he returns from leave. So I don't know what email exactly should it be your email? I should send a message if I want a credit, or whose email should I send the message to?
You can access to you can send information to the email Silviculture 2026 because that email I could access an email and also Jinjira could access the email either. Both of us can access the email.
Okay, that was exactly the email I responded to. And someone now sent a message. There was a feedback that he's on leave. Just a minute, I'm trying to read. I don't want to paraphrase. I want to read exactly the person's response. That
Okay, we will recheck again.
Yes.
okay.
Sorry
Yes,
about
ma.
that.
And also, for the exam that the deadline was on 7th. Ma, please, is there still an opportunity for me to submit? I'm yet to submit mine. The
For
midterm
the
exam.
the midterm exam that is on the Google quiz. Have you
No,
done
just
it? Not yet. It's okay. I could extend to that because I didn't. I set on the setting is still allow for those who not yet submitted the answer.
okay. All right. Thank you, ma.
Can you confirm, Chanchira, if you received my email? I said I said that I submitted my quiz through the my Gmail because that's where I have my Google Drive, and but I have my I log in with my work address, and I send you an email on Saturday.
Actually, I have seen a few emails submitting the presentation topic and some of the report as well, but still during this afternoon and haven't I haven't replied to any. But anyway, we will recheck all the emails and respond to you shortly. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Then we will see you again tomorrow, 3 p.m. Bangkok time. Okay. Bye-bye.